Are we clear about the motive? So then we fail, it's okay. And I think that is where the difference between goals and purpose is so beautiful, right? Because purpose is about your very reason for doing something. And acceptance of failure, acceptance of things going wrong, and surrendering yourself to that can be so empowering and uplifting, Mohan. And I'm not saying this as somebody who knew this all, right? This was one of my biggest learnings.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Masters in Coaching series on our fourth Wednesday of the month. And today we have 3 masters. So we're doing well today. 3 masters on screen and many more in the audience I can see. So Cindy will take it away in a second, but before she does, just, a quick reminder of all the amazing things that we're doing at Coacharya. And I should remind you that it's all thanks to you, because if you guys don't show up, then we can't do the great things that we do, including this webinar. So first of all, thank you for showing up today and every other time. It's lovely to have your support. But the things that we're doing. So this month is a special gift. We have an extra Wednesday, which happens every now and then. So we will have an extra webinar because we don't want to lose you. You're here every single week. We want to make sure you keep coming back every single week. So we're going to be scheduling a webinar, which you will get emailed about very, very soon, later today, I hope. It's going to be on reflective practice. So reflective practice is something that we recommend, actually require technically, in our coach training programs, but we recommend that any and every coach does because it's quite powerful. And if you're applying for EMCC credentials, it's more than powerful, it's also required. So we will do a session with a couple coaches who are really, really big into reflective practice and can tell you kind of what it is, what works for them, maybe give some suggestions for things that you can try. So that will be next week, same time, 9 p.m. IST, and in Chicago right now it is 10:30 in the morning. So you'll get an email about that reflective practice next week, Wednesday. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that we are doing a few experiments with shorter programs. And we've been doing this for, almost 2 years now. And every time we do a short program, we learn and then we try to improve. So currently we have a few different things that are already started or about to start in terms of 10 units, so 10 CCE, 10-hour programs, as well as 30-hour ones. So for example, we have the EUM psychometric for systemic coaching that started yesterday. So we'll be offering that on a regular basis, we hope. We have a Beyond Mindfulness course that we're offering on a regular basis at 10 hours. And I think it's in 10 days, we are starting our next systemic team coaching program, which I think is especially relevant to people in this webinar because, a lot of times if you already have your PCC, you're already coaching and you're getting into corporates, systemic team coaching is a really great skill to have that will help you grow as a coach, but also potentially grow your client base. If you're working with executives, let's say one-on-one, the systemic team coaching potentially is something that you can expand as your services to those corporates. So I highly encourage you to check out our events page. It's coacharya.com/events. And there you will see all of our upcoming, regular coach training programs if you don't have a credential yet, all the way through to our 30-hour electives on things like systemic team coaching and our 10-hour programs, which are more affordable and bite-sized around topics that you may also find useful in your coaching practice and in life, frankly, because we try to be very practical with our programs. Anyway, that's my pitch. I am now going to hand over to Cindy to take our masters through whatever we are doing today, being masterful. I forgot today's topic.
Expansive leadership.
I just showed very opposite of that. That was leadershipy. So, okay, Cindy, you know what you're doing. Take over, and I will see you guys later.
Yeah. And, to everyone, doesn't matter say you look cool, all yellow and bright and lovely. Yeah.
I'm running out of colors.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So lovely to be with you all. And a very special appreciation to both our guests today, Vijay and Mohan, for the dialogue we are about to listen to, engage with, and of course, share our own learnings as they continue. The topic for today is expansive leadership. Lovely, right? Expansive leadership. And it's the leadership, the format we're going to take is a dialogue. And it's all about leading with purpose, passion, and play. Purpose, passion, and play. And just to do a bit of framing around that, the current or the present moment right now, as most of you know, demands new ways of being, doing, and creating with self, with others, for a bigger purpose. And to meet purpose in this moment, we need fresh approaches, sometimes to the same task, and a connected sense of self, embracing and bursting seams when necessary, that honors both challenges and challenges mindsets needed for this expansive leadership. And the play in between includes slow, reflective thinking for fast, quick decision making. Sounds like that game, 30 seconds. Slow thinking with fast results. And anchored together with I would say, extraordinary team to deliver with passion an event, the India Conclave 2021, with lots of inclusiveness, diversity, and togetherness. We today will engage in a dialogue with Vijay and Mohan as they explore insights, reflections, and a whole lot more of the unknowns that will emerge today. And without anything more, I'm going to hand over to Mohan, who is going to be doing the, poking and digging and diving to unpack this topic. Mohan, it's over to you.
So thank you, Cindy. And Cindy is trying to provoke the child in me. Yeah, I appreciate that attempt, but I really don't need much to get engaged and get stuck into this for two reasons. One is I'm talking to Vijay, and Vijay has been not just a friend, but she has also been a mentor to me in the early days of my coaching. Vijay, do you remember we had a mentoring call? And she's been well, not really, we don't chat up every week, but she's been a constant presence, and through WhatsApp and the others. So that's one reason I'm absolutely prepared to be painful, and as Vijay says, there is a why. But the other reason is this is such a, when I think of the ICF conclave, 40, I don't have the numbers, all of them, but 45 sessions, 83 speakers, education, policy, civil services, police, and these are all the topics, the domain experts who are present over there. So the conclave itself was an expansion beyond the boundaries of the traditional coaching. So before we actually move on, I thought we might like to get Viji's own reflective, perhaps just a few words to get us started on the conclave, on the experience of the conclave. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mohan. And and I think that's the beauty of these conversations, right? I completely forgotten about that conversation we had many years back, and yet, you bringing it up in this space today. So I'm actually just thinking there are things we do and be, um, that can take us to places we never imagined we'd go. Let me talk about that a little before I get into the conclave. I think 3-4 years ago, when you and I had that conversation, right? I mean, we did have a shared context. I know we went to the same business school, you were my senior and all of that stuff, right? But beyond of that, that one conversation, right, has, I don't know, built and expanded the possibility of a connected relationship. And I'm talking about this because at many points of the conclave, this happened in many instances, and I just want to come back to that. So thank you for bringing it up and making me feel very much in the zone. So thank you. Where do I start with ICF India Conclave? In some parts of my mind, it's not even over, and it's actually not over. In fact, tomorrow we have the final, well, we call it the concluding event, but people who know me say that, you never know, right? Something else might open up after a few weeks later. And I sort of don't even want to say now that, no, it's done deal, right? I realized that nothing is a done deal in life. When we actually close things, we don't really close it. So I would just say the ICF India Conclave was a larger than life effort in many ways than one, because I'm considering this 100 people here as a very safe space. I'm really going to be sharing a few things that it's just going to emerge for me in the moment. And honestly, I have not prepared for this webinar. Cindy knows me very well. I usually prepare. I usually at least have some sort of a structure, but I said, no, I just want to come in as it. It was a larger than life effort simply because, a small chapter in one part of the world, one part of the country, actually dared to do something which was kind of unthinkable, right? Unthinkable for certain reasons. We wanted to hold a conclave with a very strong purpose towards something else, right? And not just do an event. We thought way beyond our means. When we started, we didn't have money in the bank. We had nothing. We didn't have the reputation or the experience of having done this kind of an event. The first big thing we did was we said, we're going to go completely against the tide and not do a physical conference, which is how always the format was. So, and I remember the kind of pushback we got from many quarters saying, are you crazy? Virtual things won't fly off because, it's death by webinars. Everyone's doing webinars, right? Don't go there. Do a small event, but do it in person. You need the live touch and feel, right? Everything. And then going and doing something drastically unconventional, with nothing or no one having your back except just desire and a strong sense of, wanting to make a difference. And we were underdogs in some ways, right? So it's interesting. Where do we get all that guts from? How did we even think so big? And I had very well-meaning friends who didn't sort of want to, see me fail, right? And I'm not going to name them. You know who you are. who actually said, just go easy, because when you fail, nobody is going to cover up, right? So the narrative was always about failing, you know, and so in many ways it was unconventional. And the biggest, boldest thing was we didn't want to do a coaches conference. That was simple, that was easy, right? Um, get a bunch of coaches into the room, talk all things coaching. It's safe, it's time tested, it's tried out. But we actually wanted a coaching conference, which meant that every voice has to be in the room. We wanted it to be diverse, inclusive. We wanted stakeholders. We wanted clients, potential clients, people who knew nothing about coaching. We had a segmentation, a market strategy where we took a very audacious goal and we said, out of the X, we want 25% to be non-coaches, right? I mean, not 25%, 50% non-coaches. Out of that, 25% has to be people who would not, well, usually attend a conclave like this, right? So we had a very clear plan. We said, hey, we dreamt, we said, we want retired people, we want homemakers, we want frontline workers, we want doctors, we want students, we want teachers, we want sports people, anyone and everyone we wanted in the room, right? Because we felt that was the way coaching has to grow. And I just want to say this with a lot of gratitude and, of course, pride, and just, I think, a feeling of I feel very humble when I say this, that we actually did all of that and did more. So yeah, so that's a bit of context setting, right? So finally, we wanted to do about 1,000 people. We landed up with 1,300. We wanted to have country diversity. We got people from 25 countries. We wanted, 50% non-coaches. We pretty much got that. We wanted speakers from all over the world. All of that happened. We wanted non-coaches in the room speaking on topics that would shake up people and make coaches also think. That also happened, right? It just seems very simple when I say it, but that's where the magic lies.
Thank you, Vijay. Vijay, I think the magic, I think, has been experienced by thousands of people who have either attended the ICF conclave, or even now, some of them are perhaps going through the recordings. All right, so I think that is something which we can safely acknowledge, and have we acknowledged and accepted that, if we can probably move that into a shelf, because today I think our focus is what lies beyond or perhaps behind the outcomes, and the outcomes are fantabulously successful, right, in every which way you can count them. But what lies behind that experience? Because make no mistake, it was a leadership experience, call it a leadership assignment or a project. And you started your narrative by saying effort. I was glad you did that. You didn't say outcomes and success. You said the effort of organizing this was, in some ways, one word which comes to me is uplifting. I don't know why, but it's uplifting. Tell me why, if at all, was this an expansion and a close synonym, an uplifting experience for you?
Wow.
The inner journey.
Yeah, that's a big question, Mohan. But I do see.
Can I just ask a question to our participants? Those of you that experienced the conference in however ways and forms, what did you think of it? What is your experience of it? We would love for you to type into the chat box. The conclave, sorry, not conference, conclave. Mon, sorry, Vijay, go ahead.
Yeah, Cindy, I hope you're keeping a watch on time, because
I'm on the chat box because I'm not seeing both. So
I'm likely to lose myself. We keep chatting forever.
Yeah, and before that, thank you to so many friends who've come here today, I just feel we're all together sharing this, right? So if I've missed something, please do please take the liberty to add on, right? Like I told Mohan a couple of days ago, and even Cindy, when I spoke to her, saying, like Magda was talking about reflective practice, right? I'm big on reflective practice. And honestly, I have not been able to still process all of it. So the experience still sort of is continuing, right? In some senses, it's just still there. So I've not even been able to think cognitively about it. So, but yes, Mohan, it was uplifting, and I think I love that word because I think it. I know this may sound cliche, but it's true. I think every single person who was associated in the making of that conclave grew in one way or the other, right? And in a conclave on coaching for growth, where coaching and growth are two of the pillars, it was easier to do the coaching bit, right? We could do all that. The growth bit has to be a shared experience, and I think all of us grew in one way or the other. Some of the other things that I think made it uplifting was the way, many people, many parts of the system, right? And Mohan, I'm again a big believer in systemic being, thinking and doing, but this was a practicum, right? This was literally a practicum. It's easy to talk systemic. I mean, I've run a webinar, I've done a course, I've done all that, but living it and truly allowing for that systemic energy to uplift you is something, a unique experience to be lived. And to me, I think that was that was one of the biggest growth moments, to live what it means to be systemic. And let me explain that a little bit more. What I mean by that is, in some senses, right, all traditional boundaries were thwarted. We had many people come in, and we've heard that story, right, in the Ramayana. Everyone can bring a stone, everyone can bring a pebble, and we achieve. And literally it was that. We had people who jumped in right at the last moment, who said, hey, I've got 2 pairs of hands. Can I do something for you? Right? Unknown faces, strangers. Usually we define, I think even in coaching, we're very big on boundaries, right? We define those boundaries very tightly. This was one of those real life experiences where we had to sort of literally go boundaryless. Beautiful. Otherwise, there would have been no way this would have happened.
Beautiful. Yeah, and the talk, I think, naturally turns to boundaries. We both have been skirting that word for some time now, dancing around it, right? And let me talk about one boundary now. Now, it's commonly understood, and I think somewhere it's also stated, that leadership is all about bringing order to chaos, bringing predictability to that which is uncertain, and so on and so forth, right? So it is about creating, organizing, ordering, and so on and so forth. Now, is there something at all within your experience that would make you comment on this particular view of leadership? Is there something beyond organizing? Is there something beyond ordering, sequencing, making sense, and so on and so forth? What lies beyond the desire for order, chaos, and control?
Yeah, so, and I must context this, right? And conventionally, a lot of us do this. We pride ourselves on being super efficient, super organized, super structured, right? And I'm not for a moment saying it's not important. But if you think that there is a formula by doing all of that, and you will be able to, go towards your purpose or achieve stuff or something, I think you're mistaken. any amount you can plan, you can do all of that, right? Seek that order. I think there is a huge power, and that was a shift as well, right? To be sort of easy and comfortable with disorder. Disorder can be very stressful. It's human, right? And yet this conclave proved to us time and again that when you sort of embrace that disorder, right, and try to still navigate with a lot of faith in your mind and heart, with a strong sense of purpose, right, you would beautifully sort of navigate the storm. And I want to talk about a few practical examples, right? We moved the dates of this conclave not once, not twice, 3 times. Most people don't know, right? The easiest thing was to say, "Oh my God, this is chaotic. What is going on here? Drop it."
That would be so if I were in a leadership role, my first response would be, Jesus, this is chaotic. It's out of
Yeah,
control. I mean, mentally, I would be verbalizing this to myself as saying this is out of control.
yeah, and it's okay to acknowledge it's out of control, right? But the moment we start giving too much of meaning and judgment to that out of control state, that's where I think it goes downhill.
So, what do you surrender to, Vijay? What do you
So
submit yourself to? What do you surrender to?
just the power of intent, and in the strong belief that, hey, there are so many people out there who are probably connecting to this. The universe will conspire to make it happen. And if you don't try, you'll never know. And also, the beautiful thing about purpose is it sort of frees you up to fail. So at one point, we were absolutely not attached. I remember telling the team, saying, it's okay, we wanted to do 1,000. It doesn't matter if we land up with 400. Does it matter? Does it matter in the larger scheme of things? What are we doing this for? Let's go back to the basic question. Are we making money on this? No, that's not. Profit is not the motive. Are we doing this for an award? Award is not the motive. Are we clear about the motive? So then we fail, it's okay. And I think that is where the difference between goals and purpose is so beautiful, right? Because purpose is about your very reason for doing something, and acceptance of failure, acceptance of things going wrong, and surrendering yourself to that can be so empowering and uplifting, Mohan. And I'm not saying this as somebody who knew this all, right? This was one of my biggest learnings. When everything went wrong, right? When we were getting clues and cues, right? Saying, okay, second wave happened in India, not a good sign, just lay off, just cut your losses at this stage, right? Don't sort of drag 60 volunteers along with you into a pit. What will happen if the second wave goes worse and you have to call off the conclave? Many ifs and buts, right? That is chaos. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you can go and say, okay, doing all of that, the conclave still doesn't take off. Are we okay with it? Are we okay for the difference we've still made? If you surrender to that, I think it is magical. So not just 3 shifts of dates. We lost volunteers along the way, right? Because people were losing family, people were losing friends, people were struggling with health. At one point of time, we had a situation, certain teams, we had a 50%, nobody was there. And that's where then it becomes very important to really sort of break the boundary and say, so what if this was the original team? So what if these guys were there, right? Let's look at it as a train. Can we just ask people? Can we just say, hey, come on, join us, right? We're in trouble. I don't have people here. Hey, I know you and I know you and I know you, right? I know a lot of my team jokingly say, right? If you kind of, the way you would kind of just come and ask before we realized we'd be in the team and doing stuff, right? I mean, well, that's a joke, but that is the truth, right? There are many people out there. All you need to do is to break your boundaries. Hey, I'm this chapter, I'm South India, I'm this and that. And, I'm a coach, you're not a coach. We even said, why should this only be coaches volunteering? Can we get non-coaches in? Can we get everybody we know in? Like, a big Indian wedding, get everyone in, right? That aunt and this aunt and that one and this one and,
The big Indian wedding is a great metaphor. But I
yeah.
want to come back to that one phrase which kind of stuck in my head, and this was probably about a few minutes earlier, nearly 4 or 5 minutes earlier, right? Which was, you said something very powerful. You said purpose frees us to fail. And just like to spend maybe just 10 seconds digesting this in silence.
Mohan, I want to do something else if you're okay. I'd like to ask our participants here, does that make sense? Is that a lived experience, or, does it not sound okay?
And while we, let me see, I think while we wait for these your participant responses to come in, there's something else which I want to kind of build on from, sounds great for sure.
Mohan, can I check something in with Vijay? Yeah. Vijay, it seems like, what you're saying, you had the sense of trust. Even though everything around you may have been chaos, like the environment, the second wave, there was a lot of chaos going on and disruption. But in all that, you seem to have still had a sense of trust and safety too, that it was going to go ahead. So what was the thing? What was the thing, Vijay, that gave you the sense of trust?
Lovely question, Cindy. I never sort of thought of trust. Let me flip this around.
Go ahead.
If you may. And it's not meant to be cheeky. What's there not to trust? What's there not to trust? And I'll tell you what I mean by that, right? Again, I go back to purpose, right? Our purpose was just so simple, so naive, right? That, when children work with something very naive and simple, right? When it's childlike, you just sort of trust everything and everyone, right? Yeah, you burn your fingers along the way. But if you don't do that, you're always going to be very measured about what you do. And this was about free flow, right? We've often talked about flow state. At one stage of the conclave, I definitely experienced that. And I'm sure a lot of those in the team would have experienced this, right? We were literally dancing. And none of the conventional variables had fallen into place. A month before the conclave, I think we did not even have 20 confirmed speakers. You were one of the first to confirm. And on a side note, it was a lovely session, Cindy, which unfortunately I could not host. But before we realized it, we were 83. It defeats all mathematics. I know, Mohan, you're smiling, but I don't know whether this, this kind of defeats mathematics or it supports it, right? But you get a sense, right? Oh, it's only 20, right? And let me also tell you this, in a moment of, vulnerability, I finally said, maybe, I shouldn't be, and that was only because I wanted to honor a commitment, right? We put out there saying 80 speakers. And I'm very big on every little thing I commit for, right? It's got to be done. And didn't want to do that, right? People were, even though we had pro bono tickets, right? That's the other thing. We gave away tickets at $5, right? Heavily critiqued for that. People actually said, and we had free tickets. People actually said that, hey, you know what, you give free ticket, everybody will take it, right? Humans love freebies. And you know what? We had less than 10% free tickets claimed. Shocking, right? The goodness in humanity was just reinforced. Now, all this makes you trust things, right, Cindy? And there are so many good people, so many people sponsoring tickets for people they don't know and all that, right? I think it's just allowing yourself to experience that goodness. Sorry if I rambled a bit, but I think that's what allowed for um, trust and safety. And going back to that example, right? So at one point when we had 20, we brought that down from 80, quickly made a change in the website and said, 60 plus speakers. Oh my God, I feel so silly thinking about it even now, right?
The sense I'm getting, Vijay, is there's so much happening on the edge,
Yeah.
right? It's on, everything is on the cusp of just happening or dishappening or not happening, right? So so there is a parallel to that in the physical sciences. Okay, and you know what I'm talking about. It's this term called entropy, and that parallel is quite amazing. Entropy is, equivalent, not equal to disorder. Okay, we commonly call it chaos. The law of entropy says that in a closed system, a system that is close to the outside, chaos will always increase, disorder will always increase. And I'm just trying to pick that up as a parallel and place it in this conversation. What it seems to say is that the moment we draw boundaries around what we feel our role is, this is my responsibility, this is not what I'm accountable for, this is something I can control, and this is something beyond my control, so I will ignore it. The moment we draw any kind of such boundaries, we are actually creating a closed system where disorder and chaos can increase beyond control. But when we remove those boundaries, the picture I get is of batter settling down in a vessel. The moment you open the system out, and this is the law of entropy speaking, chaos and disorder reduces, and along with that, on a very human level, I'm hearing you say trust. I'm hearing you saying surrender, as in surrender to manifest destiny, surrender to the universe. So boundaryless.
Well, that's a lovely point, Mohan. That's a beautiful concept I've even learned from you. Because there has to be this kind of more than trust happening for there to be expansiveness, right? Something has to happen in that sphere, beyond this trust for there to be this expansiveness. So what do you think it is?
So, you know what? I love what Mohan is saying, and I just want to give an example again, right? Because if I don't sort of share some of these, right, I think I will be doing great disservice because I think I'm fortunate, right? Because I really think I'm fortunate, and I say this after having gone through, and I'll maybe come to it, as to what it actually did to me personally, right? But I'm fortunate because I had the great fortune of living through this experience, right? Many things happened through me. I won't say to me, through me, right?
Brilliant.
And when we talk about containers and boundaries and entropy, right? The one thing that comes to mind, in fact, two things I want to talk about. And I know this is a bit of a paradigm shift, right? Because 48 hours before the conclave, for one of our best sessions, right? We actually have had a speaker pull out, and it was not a pull out, right? It was a mess up in the time zone conversion, and we reached out, or rather, and I don't know what what I was thinking. But when I reflect back, reached out to another speaker with just that knowledge from somewhere, remembering, connecting the dots, right? Very, very important to connect the dots in this chaos, Mohan. I forgot about that, right? We talk about as coaches, systemic coaches, pattern forming, connecting the dots and all that. I cannot tell you how important that is, to be able to connect random dots and make a beautiful rangoli out of it, right? Rangoli is this traditional art that we have in India. And usually it has a pattern you follow. But imagine making a rangoli with a random connecting of dots. So we reached out to the speaker with absolutely no hope. And I remember starting that conversation, I'm so sorry, right? And you know what? The speaker agreed, just like that. And that's where I say, right, the power of, we are closer than we think. We distance ourselves. We are closer than we think. And that was one of our biggest hit sessions of the conclave. I think it had about 250 people in the room. How did that happen? The shift was to say, why are we sort of putting this boundary saying, okay, the speaker is a guest. You've signed up as a speaker, so you're very much part of this chaos. That's a different way, right? Start thrusting it. But if you still consider the speaker as a guest, right? Somebody who, well, is doing you a service. Of course, they're doing you a service. Every volunteer is doing you a service. But what if we just open our hearts and say, hey, you know what? I'm in a spot. Can you bail me out? Can you do this? Bang, magic happens.
Magic again.
So start thinking of your partners, your speakers, your anyone's and everyone's as part of your team. Right? So when I really mean that it literally took a village to do this, right? To raise this baby, that is true. So I spoke about both connecting the dots in strange ways and the ability to break the boundary and keep on redefining.
Just trying to connect some threads here, Vijay, from the earlier first half of our conversation. And while you spoke so important about connecting the dots, I'm also trying to see what is it that enabled you to see the dots themselves, to be able to step back and see the dots. Surely there's reflection, but what I'm also hearing from what you said earlier was the sense of, if I stop trying to control, if I surrender to manifest destiny, does that help in being able to see the dots themselves, or the beautiful constellation of network of probables? You know, this is a difficult thing for me to articulate, because quantum theory moves us beyond determinism into probabilistic areas. Everything is in the field, in the zone of probability. It is no longer the Newtonian hard boundaries of everything. Everything dissolves at the subquantum, subatomic level. And I'm just trying to connect this back to what does it take to, and let me just, forget all of that. I just want to check with you, what does it take to get familiar with chaos? What does it take to be comfortable with disorder? With this is slipping out of my hands.
No, I really want to answer that in a few ways. I think sometimes, right, in all that you're going through, you just need to, in chaos, step back, step out of the field. Only when you look back, right, your line of vision, your whole perspective changes, literally. When there is chaos, we are so often being finding ourselves as players in the chaos. He did this to me. This happened to me. I am unfortunate. I don't know why this is happening, right? And we often say that about our clients, don't we, as coaches? They're so caught up in their drama that they need another pair of eyes to see. I want to bring in a very different perspective here, Mohan, that, and I never thought I'd be saying this, right? But I really feel very proud to say this, that believe me that this was one experience where I felt really proud to be a coach. I'm glad I was a coach. All of the principles that you learn in coaching as theoretical constructs, and look at it in that limited window of a 60-minute conversation, you literally can apply in leadership and in life. A few examples being, as coaches, we are pattern seekers. We are dot connectors. We do all that. Imagine taking that principle and putting it to chaos. We have much more gift and talent to apply that. Most times we don't. We leave it in the coaching room. And many times when we talk about applying coaching principles in real life, we talk about things like active listening. We talk about those skills. Those are important. I know Cindy and I have had many conversations on this. Critical thinking, so important for a coach. That was applied, right? The ability to think critically, unbiased, non-judgmental, detached. Right? And most importantly, thinking systemically. When you're coaching, you're never listening to that one voice in the room, right? The ability to hear and see those people who are not present in front of you. And that's where connecting the dots emerges again, because you are seeking and looking for strengths and talents in various parts of the universe. And you're like this magnet. And when I mean your, I don't mean singular, right? Anyone who's in this, right? You're like a magnet. You can decide, you're powerful. You can decide how you want to attracting the tribe. There's a tribe out there. When you're able to actually connect the dots, you are attracting this tribe, right? You're drawing this beautiful pattern. A is connected to B, is connected to C, and then there is this talent in A, there is this in B, there is this in C, and all of it coming together is unbelievable. And you can't plan for this, Mohan. I'm sorry, right? You can't sort of have a list, a talent list saying, okay, these are 1,000 people, these are 1,000 talents. Let's get a mix of this talent and that talent and put it all into the room and we'll create something amazing. It is about figuring out as you go, because no project plan can be estimated to that extent that you know and can predict all of the chaos.
Beautiful. So what I'm picking up from here is, you said that it's about being critical thinking. It's about being open to ideas. It's about listening into the universe. If I were to capture all of it into one phrase, right? What you are saying sounded to me like you're 100% coachable. Imagine that, Cindy. So, what if I were coachable to life itself?
Wow. I love that.
I love that question. I'm going to ask it to everyone. We'd love to hear from you. What makes you coachable? What's that standing out thing for you, to all our participants? Vijay, we've got about 10 minutes to go, right? And I'm not sure whether you have this question, Mohan.
Go ahead, please.
What showed up in you that surprised you?
Wow. I wish I had thought of that.
Go on, Vijay, I want to hear this. What surprised you?
Yeah. It's one of those aha moment questions for the client, right? They just go completely silent. So I forget I'm with a most masterful coach here. Yeah. I've always prided myself, you know, in sort of delivering the goods. Most people who know me will know that I would rather die, but deliver and die.
Hmm.
Right? So for me, I think one of the biggest surprises, again, I'm grateful because I realize it's just so much more powerful, right, than a narrow way of looking at goals. If you're so attached to your goals, right, um, it's just going to take the joy out of the entire process. So the surprise was, amidst all of this chaos, right, and stress and everything, I was having a blast. I was living the life, right? Of course, my family would say a different story, but I know I was sort of thriving in it. And usually I am planned, I am systematic, I have a backup plan. I don't like to sort of give up on my goals. And I'm also saying this as somebody who's played a lot of sport, right? Finally, what matters is when you score the goal. That's when you lift the trophy. Huge shift in saying that it's probably best for everyone to be, I mean, best for me, best for the system, best for all, to not be so attached to these goals.
Super. Yeah,
Right.
I didn't bring that up. Go on, please complete.
And that then allows you to play, you know, really play, because you know, as long as there is progress and you're moving, right, and the inner deeper bits that everyone who has been part of this should grow, you know, this should be a great space to provide for possibilities, friendships. That's what we wanted, right? And to just enhance the awareness of coaching. Then why sort of be so attached? So let me tell you, right? So for example, if in a session, one session, you know, the session didn't take off or technology failed us, to take that with a smile. And I'm not saying this post facto, right? And let me tell you, all 43 sessions went off with no glitches. Okay. We had a lot of bloopers. We had a lot of funny moments. We had a lot of situations where speakers who came to one session were suddenly lifted and thrown into a different session. All of those funny things happened. And yet, not one session failed because we, I think, had completely taken off that pressure to perform and to look at those goals narrowly, right? So huge learning there, Cindy, because you've seen a different side of me as well, and so have I. And I'm not saying that that does not exist, but this can be very empowering. This can really allow you to play and have a blast. You know, despite being sleep deprived for about 2 months, and you know, I don't even want to talk the number of hours and all that, it's embarrassing. I was still joyous. I was not dead. I was not tired. I was not exhausted. I was not complaining. Of course, I learned, right? I mean, there are many things you can do better next time, but I was joyous, irrespective of the outcome, right? So much so that in the inaugural, right? And I'm somebody who's so well prepared. Twice over, you know, my screen froze or something, right? Absolutely didn't beat myself up about it. I went to sleep peacefully that night. And I think that presence showed because it was infectious, right? When somebody does it, everyone's doing that. Everyone's having a blast. Everyone's having fun, right? And what is the point of all this if we can't have a bit of fun, right? Leadership is not all serious stuff.
That's the second little bit of pearl, second pearl that you have uttered. Leadership can be fun. And if I were to paraphrase you, I'd say boundaryless leadership is fun.
Can I add on to that? Purposeful, boundaryless leadership can be a lot of fun.
And playful.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? Just allow me the permission to give you one more example, right? All of this is just coming because I just feel so grateful and enriched. We had this partner who was preparing something for us, right, for the inaugural, and we could have dropped it, right? But we so badly wanted to showcase all our coaches there, people who contributed, people who were 65, kids, everyone had given bites. It was a video that needed to be done, right? So there was a challenge at the partner's place. And so it went on from A to B to C. Finally, it came to a person D, a human being, right? And Cindy, this is about trust, right? Somebody you don't know at all, stark stranger, right? You could have mistrusted and saying that, oh my God, no way this is going to happen. The regular guy is not here. What does this guy know? I don't even have a relationship with him. What's in it for him, right? That's one way. The other way is to just suspend or don't even, when you don't have a choice, you don't ask those questions, right? The beauty of this was this boy, I don't know all of how many years, right? Was so passionate, right? It was just a commercial project. Whether it was us, whether it was what we were sharing, whether I don't know what it was. He brought in his best self. He kept awake the entire night. Myself, this boy, and one other person from the team. The entire night we were awake. It's okay, I got to do it, somebody's got to do it. This guy need not have done it. What made him do it? What made him give his best? That is shared purpose.
Super. And I don't know, you seem to have plucked that from my mouth because that is my question. Throughout this narrative, throughout the last 1 hour, Vijay, the sense I've always kept, I was very cognizant of the fact that you were actually a spokesperson for probably 60 or 70 other people who were part of you on this journey. So it was, though in a sense given guidance, direction, and so on by you, it was a collective journey as much as anything else, right? I sensed momentum in what happened, okay? What I'm trying to do is abstract some kind of principle for us to take back. What is it that galvanizes a loosely organized community? And I'm saying loosely organized because it's not an organization, right? It's a loosely organized community of people, albeit having a purpose, okay, which is relatively shared, but not necessarily always articulated in a way that everyone understands the same way. What would be, you think, if we were to, and I'm speaking on behalf of the participants, what could you tell us is the galvanizing principle which can bring an entire community together? What is that ignition? What is it that sustains that fire? What is it that gives the journey the momentum and the craziness and the fun? I don't even know if there's an answer to that. So sorry to land you.
No, I know, but I'll just probably, and I know we didn't touch on passion in this webinar so far, right? And I'm not trying to force fit it. While purpose is important, right? It is that very strong and And the dictionary definition of passion is a strong and barely controllable emotion.
I don't. Is that what we are referring to?
No.
But you didn't need to talk about passion. You didn't even need to use the word. It was there all over.
It was there on your face, Vijay.
What I'm saying is, I think we have, again, I'll say this, we're far more in common. We are so much more similar than we are different, right? And inclusiveness is not a good thing to talk about, right? It's real. To me, the biggest thing was, when there are so many people having that strong emotion, or emotions in them, it's, I think, in some way about allowing a space for those emotions to come out, and then it becomes infectious. Right? And the second thing is about purity. How pure can your intent be, right? Everyone naturally gravitates towards, in Hindi we have a word, right? A non-matlabi approach, right? You're not always looking for ROI. Sometimes you just do good for the sake of doing good. And I think when something like that happens, honestly, there'll be many more people sort of, coming and joining. So I don't think it's that somebody stands up and articulates this, right? 10 commandments. These commandments get added along the way. I don't know whether I've answered you or I've confused you, but this is what I struck me, Mohan. I mean, if there's something that comes to you, please share.
Thank you. There is so much which we could continue to speak on the subject, because this is an open question to everybody, actually. And do feel free to share. What do you think is a principle that can bring people and keep people together towards a mission? We use the word purpose, but if you now take that and explode the scale, what we are talking about is a mission. What brings people together? What keeps people together? Yeah, it's an open question. I don't think there's an answer I want from this, because that will just kill my joy. This is something I'd like to keep exploring through life. Cindy.
Yeah. We've reached the end of our time, and there's still a few thoughts I'd like to unpack, but we keep it for another topic on leadership. Mohan, I want to thank you for the thought-provoking pieces that you raised, and some of those analogies with some things, I found myself really reflecting on and thinking, Mohan, you're ready to be an MCC. You need to go in that direction.
But actually,
I can be your whatever partner, mentor.
Actually, Magda made me an MCC in the introduction.
I know. That's the power of intent.
Presence of masters. So I said, okay.
Cindy, with your permission, I want to just throw one.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand over to you for closing thoughts that you can end. But what I want to say is thank you. I love that openness in which you shared. And while you were talking, there were so many strengths that I know of you that began to show up in different ways, evolved. So I want to thank you and that magnificent team that you spoke about. That was all that support and, putting all the pieces together, burning the midnight oil with you. From the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you for today. And you can close.
Thank you, Cindy. I wanted to just say one thing, right? And my deep, and I would say absolutely from my heart, thank you to the team that started, the team that joined, the team that came along, the faces and names that we've not acknowledged, and I would just say, and friends we made along the way. I would also say the ones who pushed, the ones who provoked, the ones who challenged. It literally took everyone to make this. And I'm not saying this because it sounds good. It is true. And I'm absolutely happy to chat with anyone on this. And, because I think I've not even processed 10% of this. And thank you, Mohan, because it's always been wonderful. And, if you had not, and you and Cindy had not created this safety I felt today, I don't think I'll probably even have to listen to the recording to see what I've said, but it was absolutely free flow. And my only parting thought is, for many of us coaches here, we as coaches, I think, are gifted and powerful in more ways than one. And sometimes we constrain ourselves within boundaries and containerize ourselves. What if we were just to flow and play in all the other roles we do in our lives? I think it would be simply amazing. That's all I want to say. Thank you, everyone, for really.
That's a lovely lesson. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you for having me here, Vijay and Cindy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.